why not, the engineers and developers, why not build an app or something like that? Because and build your own. Exactly how you envision it. Why don't you build it, or find a way to build it? That's what I would suggest. But it's a little different for me because I do more or less do the more of the entertainment thing. But yeah, I help engineers and developers all the time with it. And in Medium, Oculus Medium, I keep on going back to that one, but I mean that's a really good tool to be able to use for the enterprise side, I feel, as well. So as far as the killer app though, Flipside is definitely the killer app. We're actually helping them build this app right here. This is an application I work really close with the developers and so yeah, the engineers and developers are probably my favorite people in the world because I tell you guys exactly what I want and then you go do it and it's great.
So Laura, too, I want to ask you a little bit more on the hardware, and especially as an Oculus person. I think last week Facebook sort of disappointed a lot of PC-based people because they decided they're not going to do a Rift 2.0. They want to move strictly towards mobile VR and having standalone headsets, but I think you might disagree with that a little bit.
I do. I really seriously do. This is what I feel that they need to do. So, like I said, I'm on board for the entertainment and gamers, but so a lot of the gamers, okay, they already own the PCs to power the VR, okay? The problem is they just don't know about it. They have no idea about it. And so what I think that needs to happen, I think the Oculus is behind. I think that they need to come out with the feet trackers, and that goes into why the sensors are important. So you see how whenever I move, this thing moves. So, and it looks really good. So those sensors in front of me and the sensors in the remotes, that's how I'm able to make myself move and stuff like that. But what needs to happen is I need to have sensors on my feet to go with the Oculus as well. And HTC Vive, they already have that. And I feel like Oculus is behind in that sense because, and they're going to have to come out with it. Like, there's no doubt about it. It's going to have to happen.
Lloyd, you deal with this a little bit. I think we're getting into, we get really hype about this stuff, but no one really wants to talk about the challenges. And, some of those are, there's a lot of social aspects, but I think really more than that, I think there's, hardware challenges. And, for you guys, where do you see those challenges lying, especially for engineers and I guess really just for the technology as a whole, like what really needs to happen?
Yeah, so for the technology as a whole, there's several aspects that really get into the hardware challenges. The first is you notice she's wearing a headset. Okay, how many people have worn one of these headsets? Okay. How many people have noticed the weight? Okay. How many people would want to have that weight on their head all day long? Okay, we got one.
Two, Morris.
Two, okay. Okay, you have it on your head all day long, right? No, so the first one is just some very fundamental things. You have to put it on. It has weight. It has a strap. That's limitations of our current technology. If you go inside, the resolution of the display panels that are being used, they've gotten way better in the last couple of years. Does anybody remember what they used to call the screen door effect? Okay, basically the panel was the lenses used inside are very high resolution, or very high magnification lenses. You are essentially seeing gaps between the pixels in the display panel. The panels are now high enough. You can still kind of see it if you look for it, but it's not predominant. You don't really see it unless you're really looking for it. So that adds to basically the immersive reality. So there's a whole bunch of things like that at kind of the first level. The second level that you get into is much more engineering based. There's a lot of latency between the sensors, the processing, and so forth. So it's actually the area I worked in when I was doing this a lot. The time it takes for information to travel through from the sensor to be processed and show up on the display is actually pretty significant. It's not significant from what we're used to like on a PC, but in a VR headset, this is one of the causes of nausea. So when you move your head and track around, and we had a beautiful example of this before she switched applications, part of your brain wants to see the motion of your head and the image your eyes are seeing locked very, very, very tightly. We're just getting to the point where we're getting over that hurdle. That's just, now add that to motion your hand controllers, all that type of stuff. So that's basically it's weight, battery life, computing power, which ties into latency, and just integrating all that together to be seamless. That's kind of the principle of the challenges we're looking at currently.
Aaron, what about on the AR side?
And so I would say pretty much everything that Boyd said also applies to the AR side, but there's one additional aspect which is pretty important, and that's that especially in industrial augmented reality, and I've worked with power plants, that these things have to be able to work in some pretty extreme environments. And so for instance, we were doing some stuff that was really, really powerful with the HoloLens, but it's hard to get the thing to work continually in a power plant environment. And then another piece of that is you need stuff that works as well as those highest end devices, but is also compliant with all of the safety regulations. And so basically the thing has to provide PPE along with the AR side. Say again? Because of the heat in the power plant environment, and also if you design interfaces that require audio, a lot of industrial spaces can't really use an audio interface or a speech interface.
Aaron, I want to ask you about that a little bit more too, because I think there are a lot of questions around in this increasingly IoT world that we're living in. I think there really is a question around, the impact of AR in, both IoT in general, but I think, specifically when we're talking about the industrial IoT, smart factories and things like that, like where does that fit into the ecosystem?
So part of it is just the obvious, the fact that you can view work orders for equipment that you're working about, the fact that you can be guided around the space, the fact that you can collaborate remotely with someone. All that stuff is basically showing up and is, on its way. Companies